Welcome to the Commutative Algebra Seminar of IIT Bombay. We are very happy to have Professor R.V. Gurjar from IIT Bombay. He is going to give two lectures on the famous Zariski-Lippmann conjecture today and on Friday. During the seminar, you can write your questions in the chat box. And after the seminar, we will have live interaction with Professor Gurjar. So over to you, Professor Gurjar.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everybody. So today I will talk about the famous Zariski-Lippmann conjecture, which is still unsolved after 55 years. So for all the young people listening today, you have a chance to become famous by solving this conjecture. Let me set up a little notation. So K is always an algebraically closed field of characteristic 0, just for simplicity of exposition. And my local rings R will be always of the type localization of polynomial ring at maximal ideal modulo prime ideal, or power series ring over K modulo prime ideal, or convergent power series ring over complex numbers modulo prime ideal. This is again for simplicity of exposition. Now recall that a K derivation delta from R to R is a K linear vector space homomorphism R to R, which satisfies the Leibniz identity. I think everybody knows what derivation is. So all such K derivations form a finitely generated R module, which is denoted by der K R. And this is R dual of omega 1 R, which is the module of Kähler differentials of R. If R is an integral domain, then der R has same rank as dimension of R. So let me just say that geometrically, the meaning of a derivation is like this. Suppose you have a normal algebraic variety, then you can take vector fields, algebraic vector fields on the smooth locus of that variety. So these vector fields correspond to the derivation. So start with, say for example, affine variety, which is normal. Then take the set of all take any algebraic vector field on the smooth locus of the variety. That corresponds to a derivation of the ring R, and conversely. But when the ring is not regular, the derivations contain more information than just vector fields, and that is where the whole difficulty of the conjecture lies. So let me recall the famous Jacobian criterion of regularity, which is just implicit function theorem in another garb. It says that if the module of Kähler differentials is a free R module, then R is regular. So this is just said that it is just implicit function theorem, so it is not a big deal. But a much harder question was raised by Zariski. So Zariski conjectured the following: suppose the module of derivations is a free R module, is the ring regular? So this became known as the Zariski-Lippmann conjecture, because the first non-trivial result about this conjecture was proved by Zariski's student Joseph Lippmann in 1965. So Lippmann proved that if the module of derivations is free, then the ring is normal, then the variety is normal. So this is a rather non-trivial result. The proof of this is homological. So at this point, let me just say that although one knows the ring is normal, it is not known in general whether the ring is Cohn-Backaule, because normality doesn't imply Cohn-Backaule. So this is this shows the state of knowledge even after 55 years. So in the first talk, I will just mainly survey all the nice results proved so far as an affirmative answer to Zariski. And in the second talk, I will try to say a little bit more about the proofs of some of them. So we will start with dimension R equal to 1. So then it is a good exercise for young people listening to the talk that in this case, if the modular of derivations is free, then ring is regular. This is a nice exercise. But don't use Lippmann's result, because Lippmann's result says the ring is normal. So automatically it follows that ring is regular, but try to prove it directly. So then the next important result was proved by Shea and Storch in 1971. So if the ring R is a hypersurface, then they proved that R is regular. And a few years later, when I was a PhD student, I found a somewhat different proof of this hypersurface case, which was not published. Then Joseph Baker, who happened to be my first collaborator, so he used properties of omega 1, derivation module, localization, extensions of ground field, etc., to prove that you can always reduce the problem to dimension R equal to 2. So, of course, in some sense, one knew philosophically that dimension R equal to 2 and Joseph Baker proved it. His paper appeared in American Journal. So, so the problem is reduced to dimension 2, but the conjecture is still not proved for all two-dimensional ring R. The next interesting case was tackled by Melvin Hochster, who proved the conjecture when the ring is graded. So you can even take the global case. You have a positively graded domain over K, and then suppose the module of derivations is free, then he proved that the ring is actually polynomial ring. So again, his proof is not so easy, and as is expected, when one is dealing with homogeneous or quasi-homogeneous affine domains, the Euler derivation has to enter into the picture. So his proof also uses the Euler derivation, summation xi d by dxi. A shorter proof of Hochster's theorem was given later by Erich Platter from Germany. So he used, there are various difference like Dedekind different, Noether different, Keller different. So using some of those things, he gave a somewhat simpler proof of Hochster's result. Now we come to a very important result, which was proved by Joseph Steenbrink and Duco van Straten. So this goes beyond just the Zariski-Lippmann conjecture. So they said that suppose the ring has dimension at least 3, ring is normal, and it has an isolated singular point. Then any regular one form on the smooth locus of spec R extends to the resolution of singularity of spec R as a regular one form. This is a very, very, very striking result, because in general, regular one forms on smooth locus do not extend as regular one forms on resolution. I heard that similar result was proved by Takao Osa from Japan, but I don't remember seeing his paper. So now, using this Steenbrink and Van Straten result, if you use that the module of derivations is free, then we can deduce that the ring is regular. So this I will indicate next time how to combine Steenbrink's result with freeness of the module of derivation to deduce regularity of R. Now this result of Steenbrink and Van Straten was extended by Hubert Flener to the non-isolated case. So what he proved was that suppose the singular locus of spec R has codimension bigger equals 3, then again any regular one form on the smooth locus of spec R extend as a regular one form to the resolution. So then using the same idea, we can show that the Zariski-Lippmann conjecture is true if spec R has singular locus of codimension bigger equals 3. So this particular result will play an important role when we will show that all rational singularities, for them the Zariski-Lippmann conjecture is true. We can use this result and some other result which I will mention later. So, so I just mentioned at this stage that we can now prove that the Zariski-Littman conjecture is true, assuming that the singularity is rational. So in particular for all quotient singularities or all sorts of singularities which are rational. So the best result known so far is due to Kellstrom, and it says that the Zariski-Littman conjecture is true if R is a complete intersection. So Shea-Storch proved the result for hypersurfaces, and Kellstrom's result is of course much more general. It proves it for complete intersections, and in that paper he gives another proof for hypersurface case. So his Kellstrom's proof uses some deformation theoretic arguments. It will be a very nice topic for a future seminar if somebody can present Kellstrom's proof. So in his PhD thesis in Tata Institute, my student Sagar Polte and I used more global methods to approach this conjecture. So let me state what the global setup is. So let V be a quasi-projective algebraic surface over complex numbers. Assume that the algebraic tangent bundle of V minus the singular locus is trivial, and assume of course the variety is normal. Then we proved the following results. So suppose V is affine and V minus singular locus of V has logarithmic Kodaira dimension at most 1, then V is smooth. So this is a kind of global result. We also proved another result. So you assume that V is projective and V minus singular locus has logarithmic Kodaira dimension at most 0. Sorry, we proved that if V minus singular locus has trivial tangent bundle, then the logarithmic Kodaira dimension is 0. And we also proved that V has at most one singular point. So in this projective case, we have proved many results, but they are rather technical to state. I will mention some of the unsolved cases in this case in my next lecture. But let me just state one result which we proved. So suppose V is projective, normal, such that the log Kodaira dimension of V minus singular locus is at most 0. If assume that V is singular, then the exceptional divisor of its resolution of singularity cannot be a smooth elliptic curve. I mean, this is one special result which we have proved. And it's interesting that to prove this, we use the theory of vector bundles on algebraic curves. So some very global methods were used to prove this. Now there is a lot of scope for research in this case of projective surfaces, which we could not handle. So I will mention some of those things in my next lecture. So now we come to a very interesting proposal by Hochster in his paper, his paper on that graded case. He proposed the following type of counterexample to the Zariski-Littman conjecture. Namely, you take polynomial ring in 4 variables localized at x, y, z, w, and go modulo height to prime ideal fg. Then you assume that this ring is normal and take the Jacobian matrix of f and g. So it is a 2 by 4 matrix. Suppose that the first 2 by 2 minors, df by dx, df by dy, dg by dx, dgy is equal to the last. Suppose this happens, then first of all, it's rather easy to deduce from this condition that the modulo of derivations is free. So we are assuming the ring is normal and we have this condition, then the modulo of derivations is free. But suppose we have found an example where the ring is not regular, then we have a counter example to the Zariski-Littman conjecture. So this was a very interesting proposal by Hochster. But now see, Kellstrom has proved the Zariski-Littman conjecture for complete intersection. So now we know that Hochster's counterexample cannot exist. but it is very desirable to prove this directly. Just use that condition on the 2 by 2 minus. Just use that and prove that that implies the ring is regular. This is important because if a very good understanding of the Jacobian ideal of R is quite important for proving the Zariski-Lippmann conjecture. This is my opinion from my personal experience. And even otherwise, there are not too many important results about the Jacobian ideal. So proving something general about that Jacobian ideal will be quite important. Now there are some other results about the Zariski-Lippmann conjecture by Druel and Graf. They concern special kinds of rings like log canonical rings and so on. So it will take me too much time to define them, and I will not go into their results. So now let me indicate proofs of some of the results using whatever I mentioned. So let's first consider the case of rational singularities. So suppose you have a normal variety which has rational singularities, and we assume that the tangent bundle of V minus singular locus is trivial. Then of course the canonical bundle of V minus singular is also trivial, because canonical bundle is second exterior of omega 1, and since tangent bundle is trivial, so is omega 1, and hence so it's the second exterior of omega 1, which means and of course rational singularities are Cohen-Macaulay, and canonical bundle trivial implies that the variety is Gorenstein. So let us first talk about dimension 2 case as a kind of warming up. So now in the dimension 2 case, the variety is rational and Gorenstein, so it is well known that such varieties are just rational double points. So they are just hypersurface singularities. So as I mentioned, Shea and Storch proved the result for hypersurfaces. So it's easy to also, one can prove directly that for rational double points, the Zariski-Lippmann conjecture is true. So in the case of dimension V equal to 2, the result is easy. Now let's consider dimension of V more than 2. So if the singular locus of V has codimension more than result of Steenbrink and Schlener, we deduce that V is smooth. So we are left with the case where the singular locus of V has codimension 2. So since V has rational singularities and V is Gorenstein, now we are in a position to use the result of Miles-Reed, which result says that now the singular locus has codimension 2. Then Miles-Reed proved that at a general point P on the singular locus, the variety is analytically isomorphic to the product of a rational double point cross C D minus 2, where D is the dimension of V. But since the derivation module of the ring is trivial, it follows that the derivation module of the rational double point is also trivial. But then for rational double point, I just mentioned that that implies that the rational double point is smooth. So it shows that the singular locus has to have codimension more than 2. Now I come to a result proved by Indranil Biswas, Sagar Kolte and myself in Kolte's thesis. I will describe some of the results. So again start with a normal quasi-projective variety. Assume for simplicity that it has a completion, so that smooth completion, so that V bar minus V is connected. This is just for simplicity. So for example, this happens if V is affine. This is well known that when you compactify affine variety, the infinity is connected. Now assume our basic assumption is that the V minus singular V has trivial tangent bundle. Then our idea was to use the theory of open algebraic surfaces developed by several Japanese mathematicians, starting with Itaka and Miyanishi, Fujita, Kawamata, and so on. So we want to use this theory to tackle this conjecture. So assume that now the logarithmic quadratic dimension of v minus singular is at most 1. So I'm not going to define this term because it will take me too much time to introduce this term. So logarithmic dimension of a smooth variety can be anything like minus infinity, 0, 1, 2, etc. up to the dimension. So in our case, it can go up to 2. So I am assuming that the logarithmic quadratic dimension is at most 1. So then one has some structure theorem for such varieties, and using that we do something. So first case is when the logarithmic quadratic dimension of v minus singular locus is minus infinity. That should be minus infinity there. Then what happens is in almost all cases one can show that this v minus singular locus of v has either a A1 fibration or a P1 fibration. So this is a basic structure theorem for such varieties, a very fundamental result actually, which was proved by Mihanishi, Sugiev, Fujita, and Peter Russell. Second case is when the logarithmic quadratic dimension of v minus singular locus is 0. Then in this case we use a detailed knowledge of such surfaces, which was proved by Takao Fujita in his famous paper on topology of non-complete algebraic surfaces. So we use that knowledge. Suppose kappa bar of v minus singular locus is 1. Then it was proved by Kawamata that this v minus singular locus of v has either a C-star fibration or an elliptic fibration. So one can analyze these cases very carefully. One knows all types of what kind of singular fibers can occur and so on. And then you can show that the Zariski-Lippmann conjecture is true in this case if V's are affine. Now I will not discuss today what happens when V is projective. There are some nice results which we proved, but there are some cases which we could not tackle at that time. So let me now talk about the hypersurface case, which was solved by Shea and Storch. So just for simplicity, assume that we have a surface in 3 space f, x, y, z equal to 0. Just to indicate the idea, I will indicate, I will consider this case and assume that the module of derivations is free. Now any derivation of R has the form a d by dx plus b d by dy plus c d by dz, such that a fx plus p fy plus c fz is 0 in R. So we will write any such derivation as a triple ABC. Then it's easy to see that the 3 triples I have written here, minus fy, fx 0, etc. 3 triple. They are obviously derivations because when you plug in there, you can see you get identically 0. So these are, one can call them, these are the obvious derivations. And apart from this, I must say again that apart from these obvious derivations, in the general case, we don't know any other derivation which one can write. Although we know that the module of derivation has rank 2 and there are a lot more derivations, but these are the only obvious ones which one can write. So now assume that the derivation module is generated by 2 derivations, delta 1 and delta 2. So then you write these 3 obvious derivations as linear combinations of delta 1 and delta 2. Then one can do some calculations and use normality of R, which was proved by Lippmann. One can show something very interesting. This was I also did this independently as a student, that the first partial derivative fx is the 2 by 2 minus R2 S3 minus R3 S2. The Fy is equal to the minor taken by first and third column, R1 S3 minus R3 S1 up to a sign, and similarly Fz is R1 S2 minus R2 S1. So this is a very interesting consequence of the freeness of the derivation module. It shows that the partial derivatives are very important, and unfortunately one has not understood the partial derivatives of f quite well. I mean, if we can understand them better, there are other conjectures which I will not state here, which they can be solved if you have a very good understanding of this partial. So then now think of these Ri Sj as elements of the power series ring, and take the ideal generated by those R1S2 minus R2S1 etc. Then by a result of Northcott and Egan, it has height at most 2. So this is a well-known result of Northcott and Egan, which is a generalization of Crew's principal ideal theorem. So then again, using some more commutative algebra and using those relations that fx is equal to R2S3 minus R3S2 etc., we can show that there is a height to prime ideal P in K, X, Y, Z such that it contains all the elements f and all its 3 partials. But then that will easily imply that f equal to 0 is not normal, because that will basically say that the singular locus of f has codimension 1. So the conclusion is that one of the partial derivatives fx, fy, fz has to be a unit. But then you know that once that one of the partial is a unit, that means f has order 1 and the ring R is regular. So that is roughly the idea for the hypersurface case, and similar thing works when there are more variables. So at this stage, I will not talk about other proofs. I'll just mention the references: Baker, Flener, Hochster, Kellstrom, Lippmann, Shea, Storch, Van Straten and Steenbrink, and Biswas, myself and Kolte. And in the next lecture, I will give more proofs of some of the other cases, my work with Biswas and Kolte and so on. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I have one question.
Yes.
Yes.
Sir, in the beginning, somewhere you said that it is enough to prove it for dimension 2.
Yes, yes.
But after that, there were many results for dimension greater than 2 also. So, means,
Yeah. Yes.
Means is it, means how is it that? Means
no, but in higher, more dimension, the assumption is that the singular locus has codimension more than 2.
okay.
So
Okay.
that does not follow from the dimension 2 case.
Is it proved for isolated singularities?
If the dimension is at least 3.
For dimension at least 3, isolated singularities has been proved?
Yes, that follows from the
Oh, that follows from this. Yes.
Steenbrink and Van Straten. Yeah, yes.
Okay. So the difficult part would be isolated singularities singularities has dimension 2.
That's exactly. That the most difficult case, which was always, one knew, I think intuitively that's the hardest case.
And
but again for 2-dimensional complete intersections, it is proved by Kellstrom. So that is a very nice result.
But you said it's not even known for Cohen-Macaulay.
It is not known for
Cohen-Macaulay rings.
No, but in dimension 2, normality implies Cohen-Macaulay, so that is not a problem. In dimension 2, that's not a problem.
But I'm getting confused. We need to prove it for only dimension 2, right?
Yes. So then it is okay. Then I'm just saying that if you try to directly, assuming derivation module is free, that the ring is Cohen-Macaulay, that has not been done. But now that the problem has been reduced to dimension 2, so that problem is not there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Yes. Any other questions?
But the conjecture could be false. No?
Yes, but I think
So, but the
all the
Cohen-Macaulay property could still be true, right? If dimension is 3 and derivation module is free, Cohen-Macaulay property could still be true and conjecture could be false.
yes. I mean, as long as the conjecture is not proved, you can always say that it can be wrong. See?
Yeah. So I'm saying there is some point in trying to prove that the ring is Cohen-Macaulay. If
Yes.
you can't prove it is regular.
Yeah. Yes. That is true. But in some sense, when the problem is reduced to dimension 2, that is of academic interest. Trying to prove Cohen-Macaulay. I mean, although it will be a nice result if you can prove it Cohen-Macaulayness. But the real problem is in dimension 2. So where Cohen-Macaulayness is clear.
Yeah.
I have just only one comment.
Yes.
This last proof you said about hypersurface case,
Yeah.
that also works for just assuming the derivation module as a finite homological dimension.
Probably. Yeah. It's possible. Yes.
So is it also there is some conjecture about homological dimension of the omega 1?
Yes.
The only possibility is 0, 1 or infinity.
I see.
So I don't know. Do you know the status of this and connection of that with this conjecture?
No, not really. I have not. I'm not really keeping in touch with this question for a long time now. More or less, for last 30 years at least, I have not thought about it. So I didn't follow the literature, later literature about omega 1.
Also, there is a conjecture of more general than this Nakai's conjecture with Balwant Singh and some work.
Correct.
But that is also open in general.
That is also open. Yes. Yeah. Correct.
So Nakai's conjecture implies Zariski-Lippmann, right?
Yes. Correct. Nakai's conjecture says that suppose the higher order derivations are generated by first order derivations, then the ring is regular. It's something like that. So this implies Zariski-Lippmann conjecture. I think was proved by Rego. I think first, if I remember, Christopher Rego from TIFR. He proved this implication.
Also Baker.
Yeah, but Baker learned it from Rego, I think. I know it. More or less, he learned from Rego and then expanded on it, I think.
Yeah, I have one more question about that Hochster's proposal for counterexample. So you said that Kallstrom proved that the Hochster's proposal will not work. Correct. Whereas in Hochster's proof, he has actually proved that if you can find this F and G satisfying these conditions, then that will be a counterexample. So aren't these two things contradictory?
No. I'm saying that it will be nice to prove directly that Hochster's counterexample cannot work without using Kallstrom result.
Okay.
See, Kallstrom proof is not so easy.
So Hochster's construction is still valid, right?
That is still valid, but since it's such a simple-minded, possible counterexample, and to do it directly will involve, understanding the Jacobian ideal well. The Jacobian ideal is a mysterious ideal, and the more you know it, the better. I mean, for this conjecture and even otherwise, there are other problems which depend on understanding Jacobian ideal, like desingularization of a variety by blowing up the Jacobian ideal. There is something called Nash blowing up. And that problem is also open, whether you can desingularize a variety by Nash blowing up. So again, it involves Jacobian ideal. So the more you know the Jacobian ideal, the better off you are. So from that point of view, one should try to prove directly that Hochster's counterexample cannot work.
Okay. Thank you.
Conjecture is in any characteristic, right?
No,
that-
in characteristic P it is false. I mean, one can easily give a counter example like x raised to p minus y raised to q, where p is the characteristic. In this case, I think the derivation module is actually free, but the ring is not regular, so it's not true in general characteristic P. Of course, you know, there philosophically, when you take derivation, you are differentiating. So you expect that you should avoid characteristic P, because in characteristic P, as soon as you differentiate, things can suddenly become zero.
So one question would be for a general hypersurface,
Yes.
try to construct some derivations other than those trivial ones.
Yes. That's right.
So even
That
for
will be nice, you know. Yeah.
three
So
variables,
let me mention, since we have some time, let me mention a very interesting conjecture due to Helmut Kramer. So he said that take a normal surface in free space f x y z equal to 0. Assume it is normal, and take the module of derivation. Then I showed 3 obvious derivations for that. Then Kramer conjectured that at least one of those obvious derivations will be part of the minimal generating set of the module of derivation. This is Kramer's conjecture. And one of the reasons why he conjectured is that he showed that if his conjecture is true, then the hypersurface case, at least the surface hypersurface case, that means 2-dimensional hypersurface case follows. So that was the reason why, and so far Kramer's conjecture has not been proved, and again it boils down to understanding Jacobian ideal. Vinay Wagh and I did some work in our paper about the Kramer's conjecture. So again, it boils down to understanding the relation between the 3 partial derivatives, fx, fy, fz. You know, they are not independent elements. You know, they are all come from same f. So how are they connected? You know, this mystery is behind a lot of unsolved questions.
Are there
Yeah,
any other questions? Well, if not, we thank Professor Gurjar, and we will meet on Friday at the same time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.